Maybe. Oh,
Oh,
it just says it's live.
countdown. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into the special signing day recap live stream here on the Country Roads webcast. As always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz, joined by my co host, Bradley,
What's up, everybody?
in here to talk some WU football recruiting. We're real excited about this 2022 class. Before we get into some of the names and discuss them individually, anything you want to open up with, Bradley?
Yeah, I would say if anything, this is something that we've been talking about a lot for months coming up throughout the season. I think that you and I definitely talked about it a lot. So did Steven, just about the fact that we had a really strong recruiting class coming into this, and it did take a big hit. There at the end of the season, some people dropping out and stepping back, and we just don't have enough Instagram people on Instagram to really, apparently keep some of these people. I'm a little salty about one of them. I, but
Yeah.
anyway, uh, yeah, I think that we still got a lot to be excited about, and I think Neil Brown's done some good work, and the coaching staff has done some good work here in the weeks that they've had off, and they've really hit the recruiting trail hard, and it's been fun to see. I mean, because we definitely had, I mean, it was dead during the season recruiting wise.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was a lot early and then a lot here late. And then other than that, yeah, kind of a dead period, yeah, during the season seemed like. But they've hit it hard for sure. Really impressive class and still a lot to go. They've got 22, I think, that signed so far today, but they can get 32 this year with that waiver from the NCAA. And Neil Brown said they're going to take full advantage of that and get the 32 by the time fall camp comes around next year. So Still 10 guys they're going to add, but it's looking like a good class though so far. Also want to go ahead. I want to apologize. My laptop's on the fritz. I got a new one. Hopefully, I'll have here in a couple weeks. But if there's any
Yeah,
technical
Merry
difficulties,
Christmas.
that's probably on my end. So yeah, it's long overdue. My laptop's basically almost in two pieces right now. Like the screen's like
Yeesh.
barely hanging on by a thread. So, but anyway. Let's get into some of these names. We'll just go through it. I got the list pulled up here on WV Sports. I believe it's alphabetically, so we'll go through it alphabetically and just kind of see as I name each guy, get your thoughts on each one, our thoughts, and we'll go through any questions pop up. We'll answer them as we go along. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. I'm gonna try to find this list as well so that way I can keep up with you.
Yeah, should be. I just went www.sports.com, hit the
WVSports.com,
sign-in day
WV for
special, and
local.
then I went to the signee roster or whatever. That's the alphabetical one
That's fine.
I'm
You can go
pulling
ahead.
up
I
here.
definitely know a lot of them off the top of my head, so you can go ahead and bring them up while we're
All right. We'll kick it
doing
off
this.
with kind of one of the bigger surprises, I think, a guy that I hadn't heard a lot about, but led all of JUCO in receiving yards. Also a good kick return guy. The latest signee for the Mountaineers here, just coming in about an hour ago, was Jeremiah Aaron, 5'11", 190-pound receiver, speedster, kind of quick twitch guy from Pearland, Texas, via Navarro Community College there at the JUCO ranks. So coming to the Mountaineers as a solid receiver. The Mountaineers wanted to add a couple of receivers in this class, and they've done that with the addition of Jeremiah Aaron as one of them. Any thoughts on Jeremiah Aaron, Bradley?
Yeah, one of the ones that I haven't kept up with exclusively on Twitter there that I can keep up with off the top of top of my mind. To me, that sounds a lot like what we've got in Winston Wright, shorter guy, quick speed,
Yeah,
a little bit of twitchiness. That kind of person has seemed to thrive under Neil Brown's coaching so far. I mean, Winston Wright's done really well. So I think that it's a smart idea to go back out there. We seem to have gotten some of the tall, long guys out there with the Caden Prathers and some of the other ones that can hold their own on the outside. So I think it's good that we're going for another guy because we really don't have another Winston Wright on our team. You know, that small, twitchy kind of guy. Reese Smith is kind of smaller, but he's really good hands, fundamentally sound. So it's nice to see us going after a guy that can help fill in that role for when Winston Wright leaves because I'm sure he's getting up there now. Uh, I'm sure we'll see him leave the program. So it'd be nice to have a guy that's kind of like right there to help learn something this year and maybe step in next year. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, I think the return game is something that he could definitely factor into. And I think West Virginia could use that. Of course, you got Winston Wright on kicks, but you're going to need a punt returner now with Iggy Esdale leaving. And, Malasevich may fill in there, but he had some woes there this season. So I think you'd like to get maybe a little bit more sure thing there, a little bit more explosive there. So he's a guy that maybe could factor in there, I think. Got Ryder in the comments. Let's go. Hey, Mountaineers.
yeah,
Ryder
dude.
there, co-host of the CRW Hoops, friend of the pod. Good to see you in here, Ryder. Anyways, moving on down the list, another guy that I know you're really excited about, and a lot of people were worried that he may flip. Started getting a lot of attention late from his highlight film. I think he got a bump in the recruiting rankings, but he's a guy that I think can come in and contribute. West Virginia needs some help in the secondary, and we're talking about Mumu bin Wahad, corner/safety. Got him listed as a corner here. I don't know if he projects as a safety. I'd always heard that he did, but he could play either one, I suppose. 6', 180 guy from Atlanta, Georgia, Grayson High School. This is a guy that's film really just pops off. He can do it all. He reads coverage as well. He understands the route concepts. And really, just by his film, I think that's the season that he had this year. I think that's why a lot of teams were trying to get in on him late, maybe flip him away from West Virginia. But he does not waver. Signs with the Mountaineers. Thoughts on Mumu, Bradley?
Yeah, for this is one of the guys I definitely keep up with a lot on Twitter. Love the kid. Mumu Wahad is gonna be a Mountaineer name starting day one. I think. I think we got a couple kids in this class that are gonna come out and probably get playing time significantly this first year. He's really exciting to watch. I mean, he's got some it factor back there, and I think that you're gonna see flashes of, some Carl Joseph and some. There's another one that I wanted to. Yeah, I think you're going to see some flashes back there of just like a real talented player back there. You're going to see his number everywhere. Super excited
Yeah.
about Mumu.
Absolutely, that's a guy. That's a guy that West Virginia's helping the secondary. Who knows? He could see some playing time early. We'll see how
Yeah, and
that plans out. But I think he's underrated.
incredibly devoted to the Mountaineer program already too. So if you guys want somebody to get behind that's really going to eat up like Mountaineer love, that's going to be your guy. Because after some of these other guys decommitted there at the end of the year, Mumu was one of the first people to step in. But like early enrolling, I'm still committed to this very heavily, and then you saw him and Nico link up a lot, and so that's a really good, interesting dynamic. The guy sitting back there that's gonna, uh, can help Nico, and Nico can help him out. Just learning some of this stuff as they go along, because that's two completely opposing positions there. So it's cool to see that dynamic kind of building.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've seen that a lot of these guys in this 2022 class seem like they're pretty close already. Not even on campus yet, which a lot of them are going to enroll early, and they'll be on campus here in about just about 4 weeks. It's crazy to think, but I think Mumu's one of those guys, and a couple others we'll talk about down the line. But next up, going alphabetically here, Eric Burton, the defensive end, really long, rangy guy. I like his size, 6'5", 210 pound guy. Maybe needs to put on a little weight with that 6'5" frame, but he's a guy that I think can definitely help West Virginia. And Neil Brown's been striking a lot of these international recruits, and he's another one from Germany. Played at Clearwater Academy, which is where we got Akeem Mesidor from. So that's a good sign there. But gotta like his link there, don't you think, Bradley?
For sure. And Eric's one that I've kind of tried to watch some of his highlights, not necessarily just his highlights, but they had some games posted on YouTube this year from Clearwater Heights out there. So I definitely tuned into some of those, watched him. He looks really sound. Um, yeah, I think that he's going to be a really good two deep man that's going to step in there, and he's got room to grow. He's got a big, like, good size to him. So I'm excited about Eric Burton. He seems really bought in on the program as well. One of those guys that's actively just, hey, I love this. I love what I got going on, and he's super excited to play for us. So yeah, I think that we could see good things come out of him, and we've had great success on the defensive front so far. So why would this not be the place that's going to continue to grow really quality young men at that spot?
Yeah, absolutely. Defensive line's been the strength, and I think with some of these guys coming in, that should hopefully continue. Moving on down the line here, we got Raleigh Collins the third, U.S. Army All American, along with of course Nico, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. But guy that a lot of people were projected maybe to be a corner or a safety, but West Virginia likes him as an outside linebacker. I think you could see him in that wheel linebacker spot, possibly moving forward, or even in that rover package they use, where they kind of use that wheel linebacker moving around a little bit. Something different that not a lot of teams do. Another guy I think it's going to be a theme throughout this is length. The Mountaineers wanted to get longer, and I think they did. They wanted athleticism, and they got it with Raleigh Collins, who was played both sides of the ball and was really talented on both sides of the ball. Fast guy, may need to add a little weight as well, which, a lot of these guys will have the opportunity to do that because a lot of these guys are probably going to redshirt, at least a strong percentage of them. But I like Raleigh Collins' potential. 6'3", 185-pound linebacker from Delaware via Newman Goretti High School. Any thoughts on Collins?
Yeah, Raleigh Collins, I think, is going to be one of those guys that you're going to see step in and probably he's not going to get. I don't think he'll be competing for a starting role. He might be because the linebackers where we've been kind of weak at, and so he can come in and really start fighting for some playing time. And I think that he's going to be another name that you're going to watch in the defense. Like I said, he's going to be one of those kids that is going to get some playing time this year because I think that 6'3", 205. I don't know how you if he comes in and just really gets to work. He's somebody to be excited about. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I love his speed. You love to have that speed on the field on defense, especially at the linebacker position. We've seen how lethal that can be, and I think that's a guy that's really athletic, good speed, and can make a difference in the future for West Virginia.
yeah,
Popping in the comments here, we got Fletch Annual. How many recruits from this year do y'all think are going to be busts? Ideally, none. I mean, there's not really too many people in this class that I look at and say, hey, this guy might be a bust, really. But I think that all overall, it's a pretty solid class. So I mean, hopefully none. I mean, granted, that's not probably going to happen in a perfect world. It would, but you may have, typically you have one or two. But I think they made an emphasis in this class. Neil Brown spoke today that he thought in their first recruiting class, they kind of got in late, and some of those guys, they were talented, but a lot of them weren't really fits. And I think he really regretted, not focusing on the players that would fit the program style and everything like that that they try and run, a really trying to think of the word he used, organized program, something like that. He said to that extent, paraphrasing a little bit, but
yeah,
and I think so that I think that was a big deal for them is to get guys that they thought fit the culture with this class. So ideally, hopefully, all these guys, end up sticking around and aren't busts. So that's just kind of the way I see it. I'm pretty excited about most of this class. Anything you want to add there, Bradley?
yeah. Like you said, ideal world that we don't want to see him be bust, but I really feel like in like today's game, we might not even get to see if these kids are busts or not. Because if you're not going to come in and like at least be competing for starting work in your first 2 years, then you're probably going to transfer out, which is sad
Yeah,
to
that's
say. And it just seems
sad
to
but
be
true.
and we're the ones learning it the hardest because WVU looks more and more like a stepping stone school, and we don't want to become that. And so, I think that's why it's really tough on, Neil Brown's gone through his first 3 years. He got in late his first year, second year's a COVID year. Third year, he finally gets some work in, and, it's not a great product. And so it's even more stress put on the man. But I really do think that a lot of these guys are going to start transferring out. That's the name of our game. And I said that this year is really going to show if we are going to be getting just as much out of the transfer portal as we are putting in. I don't think that we're going to match the exact same. I think we're still going to be a little under this year because as we get better, more kids are going to want to transfer here. But I think that it's going to be really important for us to go out there and not settle for, kids under the level that we're losing. You know what I mean? Like we go out, we get
Right.
Lynn J. Dixon, really impressive pickup. We're picking some other transfer guys that, are really filling in the spots that we need. And there's some more that we can watch. And so I really expect Neil Brown, and I hope Neil Brown takes these extra scholarships that he's getting and really tries to recruit hard in that transfer portal and just see, if we can plug in some quality guys because if we're losing them, we need to be getting back just as much. It's just that's how it's going to have to be. So I don't, are these kids going to be a bust? Maybe, but it probably won't even be here. You know,
Yeah,
if they
that's
can't
yeah, that's
compete
the
here, they'll
thing.
probably go find their level, step down or step sideways, and probably be successful wherever they land. But that's just how
Yeah,
it
I
is
don't
these
even.
days.
Yes, I don't even know if you could call it a bust really, but some of them may not end up finishing their career here. So I don't know if that would quantify a bust necessarily because they could go somewhere else and have success. But ideally, all these guys would stick around, but that's just not the name of the game anymore. You see it everywhere, players transferring in and out, and that's something Neil Brown spoke to. He said, you can have your scholarship numbers of what you want, your quota at each position. He said, but the reality is you're probably not going to fill that quota at each position anymore. He said, you're not going to have 5 or 6 running backs like you used to because you're going to have 2 or 3 of them transfer if you have that many. He said, so it's just, completely different now and they're having to adjust. And as is everyone across the nation having to adjust to this. But the transfer portal taketh, but the transfer portal also giveth, if I could get it out right. But
Struggle
you
with the
you
tongue.
mentioned it, yeah, a little tongue tied, nothing, nothing. Say I can't even formulate a
Out of the
sentence. I done
ordinary.
lost my train of thought. Nothing out of the ordinary. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I tend to trip over my words occasionally, but I'll get there eventually. I always do. But I know you mentioned it briefly. The next guy on the list we're going to talk about is a transfer in, and this is a big one. Lynn J. Dixon, the Clemson running back, 5'10", 195-pound running back from Georgia originally. Like I said, transferred from Clemson. Been a backup, spelled Travis Etienne year before last. Played in a few games this year before hitting the transfer portal. When he transferred, second all time in Clemson history in yards per carry. So he's a guy that can really, really make some noise and really could be the heir apparent to Letty Brown. And when I heard Chad Scott talk today, as well as Neil Brown, and they lost Justin Williams, the recruit we talked about, and I think they really replaced him with even, possibly even better option with Lynn J. Dixon, someone with experience. But they said with the running backs they have now, they have a lot of power guys, guys that are patient, hitting the hole. And they said they wanted someone that's explosive, someone that can make a person miss and really take the distance, have a home run hitter, some a kind of an element that they haven't had at that position since they got here. And they said they really found that in Lynn J. Dixon. Chad Scott spoke and said that he's a guy that can make people miss in space. And, if he makes one person miss, he can take it the distance. So you may have a potential home run hitter and a potential starting running back, going to be battling with Tony Mathis for sure in Lynn J. Dixon, the Clemson transfer.
Yeah. I'm okay. So I've got feelings about Lynn J. Dixon. I think that he's got the talent and the ability to be the first dominant running back that we've had some really great running backs. Letty Brown, great running back, but do I think that he's going to translate extremely well to the NFL? No. I mean, he could be one of those guys that goes out and get consistent carries, helps fill in. But I think Lynn J. Dixon has that chance to be a force. Like I mean, an absolute terror running. It's not just blocking, but he's a playmaker and just a ball breaker. But I think that I know he had issues at Clemson, and I'm not intimate with those issues that he had. But that's going to be one of the things to watch. I don't want him to come into our running back room if he's struggling and he's not doing great. I don't want him to be, uh, not necessarily that would just be on his behalf, but I don't want there to be. We've got two great running backs in the wing. So we've got Tony Mathis and we got Justin Johnson that both look really good. And if we can build upon that in a positive way, I'm all for it. But I think that that's one of the things that's going to have to be watched. So
Yeah.
I know that he said he had a lot of growing up to do. I hope he's done some growing up, and if he has, then I think, like I said, he's got a chance to be the next true Steve Slayton, a guy that's really going to be a West Virginia dominant running back that just powers his way through,
Yeah.
especially behind a good offensive line that we're going to have next year.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully,
Fingers
all
crossed
fingers
everyone
crossed.
stays.
But
I was about to say, because they got this year together and they potentially have 2023 together too, that offensive line. Speaking of, Ryder Deem in the comments here on YouTube makes a good point. Dixon probably splitting with Mathis next year. Yeah, I think so. I think that you'll have a heck of a 1-2 punch too with that, because you'll have a power guy and a speed guy, kind of fire and ice, if you will. And I know a lot's been made about his exit from Clemson, but I was pleased to hear Neil Brown, because he evaluates these guys, and if he thinks, they're bad attitude or bad fit, I don't think he would take them. And he said today, when speaking about Lynn J. Dixon, that he spoke to the people at Clemson. He spoke to C.J. Spiller. He spoke to the coaches, and he said they all had nothing but good things to say about him. So I think that that's good that they still maintain a positive attitude toward Lynn J. Dixon, despite his exit from the team and things like that. So moving forward, I think Lynn J's definitely got a bright future. 2 years left to play, and him and Tony Mathis could be a force to be reckoned with for the next 2 years together, splitting that time. Kind of two different backs that could complement each other really well. And something about Lynn J that really caught my eye, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on this. I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but I know I made a bold prediction, a few games left in the season, that I thought Daggy may come back. But now, ESPN, again, the Kansas or Texas game, whichever, said, the report that they did, that he said that he was coming back. But I think that's changed. And here's my reason why, my bold prediction being that Daggy's not coming back next year. If you look at Lynn J. Dixon, when he was at WVU, he posted, in the number 2 jersey. And since then, he's put his profile picture as a hat with the number 2, and he's changed his bio to read running back number 2 at West Virginia. So seems like he's been promised that number 2 jersey, and that's going to have to be freed up by Daggy leaving. So I could be reading too much into it, but I think he put that up there for a reason. He's going to think he's wearing number 2. He's going to be wearing number 2. So I don't know. We'll see, but I thought that was
yeah,
interesting.
that's a pretty small detail that I didn't even think about. But yeah,
So yeah, interesting for sure,
and I
for
mean,
sure.
and
So
it's so hard to look at Nico and not think that that guy is a program changing quarterback.
yeah, I mean,
It's so hard to
yeah.
look at him and not think that.
That's why I said I can't remember which assistant, because there were so many assistants on that signing day special they did today there on the WVU Facebook page. They had about every assistant coach on there at one point or another. But one of them, they was asking, what were you guys trying to get with this class? And he said definitely, he said, we wanted to go out and get and this is a quote, I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but he did say program changing type of quarterback. And so that's what they see Nico as. And of course, we'll get to Nico more here in a minute, but that's big to just use those words moving forward. But next, we got a pair of offensive linemen. We'll just talk about both of them here together. I think West Virginia had 4 or 5 offensive linemen, I believe, in this class, but 2 of them here, starting with Maurice Mo Hamilton, 6'4", 335 pounder. So that's huge coming in as a freshman with that type of size, from Cleveland, Ohio, via Cleveland Heights High School. And then Charlie Katarinchik, 6'5", 285 pounder from Pittsburgh. Any thoughts on the 2 offensive linemen there, Bradley?
Yeah, so I've Mo's real vocal on Twitter, so I'm following him. Love the guy. I mean, I saw all of his highlights are him. He might as well apply for a job at IHOP, because boy, does he know how to make a pancake. It is beautiful.
I've seen that. Yeah,
You want to
he's
see
got
him
some
put
good
some
ones.
people on their back. You want to see an offensive lineman play offensive line well. Go watch Maurice Hamilton. The guy looks stout, looks good. And you guys should go watch his video for his commitment today. The guy speaks in a true baritone voice. I mean,
Oh wow.
he's got a deep, deep voice. It's kind of insane. It caught me off guard. Go look at him, if anything, just to hear him talk, because I swear he speaks in a full baritone. He looks really good. Charlie Katarinic, I mean, that's a big body, big frame. I think he'll come in and definitely be in the 2 deep out there. I don't. What did you say? Was he 6'6"? So we're looking at tackle size.
Yeah, six
He might
six, I
even
think.
he might even
Yeah,
squeeze down
he's
the guard. Might be the guy that
yeah,
stands behind James
6'4", 6'5",
Middle
yeah.
or something like that. So yeah, we went out and hit offensive line hard in this recruiting class. So
Yeah, I love to see it. I think with Charlie Katarinchik, may probably put a little bit more weight on him. Red shirt, probably good chance both those guys redshirt. But like you said, Mo has the film, and he definitely has the size already to be ready to contribute at this level. It's just probably a matter with him just getting the technique down and the system down. Offensive line they say is one of the hardest positions to play as a freshman, which really speaks to what West Virginia's done the past 2 years with Zach Frazier and Wyatt Milam and how good those two guys are to be able to
Yeah.
do that. Back-to-back freshman All-Americans for sure. But West Virginia's put a focus on offensive line. They've really built it. The position was really down when they got here, and they've really built it up right now, as we've seen this year. Especially second half of the season when those guys really started coming along and gelling. And I think you got a couple good ones there in Mo Hamilton and Charlie Katarinchik. And then moving on to another transfer via junior college. Initially had committed to WVU back in the past, ended up at Syracuse before heading to JUCO there at East Mississippi Community College. And we're talking about Lee Koba, 6'1", 225-pounder, hometown of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And this is a guy that I think can come in and contribute right away. Really high motor on this guy, and West Virginia likes him a lot, and rightfully so. He's a guy that could, I think, fill in and get some playing time early on, don't you think, Brad?
Yeah, for sure. I think that again, that's a linebacker spot. I think that we really are in desperate need of some confident linebackers back there, and I agree with you that Lee Pogba could definitely come in and he's gonna be flying around that field day one probably.
Absolutely. Ryder here in the comments adding in. I think Ollie Straw, the punter, which we signed, was in number 9, which we just retired. So, yeah, he's probably not going to be wearing that one. But he says it could be nothing with Daggy, but definitely could be something. Yeah, I know. It's interesting, if nothing else. It's kind of intriguing. Like I said, a lot of times when they're wearing those jerseys in the pictures, I didn't think anything of it. So at the time when just saw the video of him in the 2 jersey, but what stuck out to me was him changing his bio to where it said, West Virginia running back number 2 too. So I don't know, could be nothing, but could be interesting. We'll
Yeah,
see.
and there's
Uh,
a little bit difference between a punter and a 4-star running back that you're trying to
true.
persuade to come to your school over another school. That
Very
number
true.
two could be a big determining factor in some of these guys.
And then let's move on to another linebacker, 4-star guy, one of the highlights of the class. Of course, I know we were all really excited when we landed him. He signed early this morning. We're talking Travius Trey Lathan, 6'2", 210-pounder out of Homestead, Florida via Gulliver Prep High School. Big time get for West Virginia. They've got a couple big time players out of Florida. Travis Trickett's really done a heck of a job recruiting down there in Florida since they moved him down there, and West Virginia really putting a strong foothold in Florida, Georgia, a lot of the places in the South. And he's a big get, to steal him out of Florida there. Like him, think he's got potential. At 210, they may want to add a little weight, but he's athletic enough that I think he could see some playing time as early as next season. Like what I see from Trey Lathan. What about you?
Yeah, again, another guy that could step in that linebacker position and play day one. I mean, he's got the ability and the talent and the effort to make this really work out well for him. So he could definitely be a stout guy that we have just in the backfield that's going to be hopefully in a Mountaineer uniform for many years to come. And he could be another game changer for us back there on that defensive end.
Yeah, absolutely. Sticking with the defense, another transfer. This one is a home state kind of guy in Zaquai Lawton. West Virginia missed out on him early. He went to Cincinnati, during the recruiting cycle, but hit the transfer portal this year, and the Mountaineers are winding up with him. Either way, bringing the in-state kid back home. 6'3", 266-pounder, so good size on him, and I think that Neil spoke that he could contribute, right away, and I think with that size and with his experience, you could definitely see that, filling in where you're losing a guy like Dante Steele. You could definitely have him in the rotation. We saw West Virginia this year use several defensive linemen and try and get a good rotation there to not wear guys down and keep guys fresh. And I think he's a guy you'll definitely see in the rotation moving forward. What do you think about the transfer from Cincinnati, Bradley?
Yeah, I really wanted Lawton when he was coming out of high school. I thought we had a really good chance at getting him. He was a really good looking 3-star player. And I was really sad to lose out on him to Cincinnati because he's somebody that I really kept up with pretty well on Twitter. And it was like, one of my first recruiting heartbreaks to watch him not get signed because I really thought we had a chance at him. And we did have a chance at him, but we got him back. So I was glad to see him
That's
come
right.
back and be home in that blue and gold. Ball don't lie. You should have came here in the first place. Whatever. But
Hey, better late
um,
than never.
yeah, I think that he'll step in and it'll be kind of nice to have a parallel to our offensive line where we've got two West Virginia boys on the defensive side again. We've had the Stills brothers, but now we got Lawton and Martin out there. Some Southern boys. We had some boys from Fairmont. Now we got some boys from Charleston and Bluefield out of there. So it'll be fun to see some West Virginia guys on the other side of the ball again. A nice little duo that could lead the way forward. So
Absolutely. The next, my favorite personally offensive lineman in this class, I think, underrated. Like his film a lot. I think that he's a guy that kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Right there out of the heart of Big Ten country, they get him from the state of Indiana, and we're talking about Landon Livingston, 6'4", 290-pounder from Leo, Indiana, in Leo High School. Like I said, I really like the guy. I don't know if he'll contribute right away. And that's the good thing about it now. West Virginia is to the point where I don't think these freshman offensive linemen will have to contribute right away like they had, early here in the Neil Brown regime. But they've got that offensive line built up now. And like we said, they've got 5 guys that should all stay together this season and next season. So you should really have a chance to develop some of these offensive linemen that you're bringing in this class and potentially in next year's class as well. But I do like what I see from Landon Livingston. What do you think, Brad?
yeah, I'm a big fan of Landon Livingston. He's super vocal about loving being a Mountaineer, so I love seeing that. This is one of those guys you're talking about. Neil Brown's looking forward when he says he wants program devoted guys because nowadays, like we were talking about the transfer portal, you really need guys that are going to be committed to stay here and grow and work. That this is the place that they want to kind of become themselves at. And he's one of those guys, and I definitely think that he'll get redshirted this freshman year. But I mean, he's got the frame, he's got the build, he's got the personality to really be a beloved person in Mountaineer in the blue and gold. So I'm really excited to see him come onto campus because I think that he'll be a fan favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of fan favorites, the next guy we're going to talk about is the fan favorite, the one that everybody wants to talk about since he committed. A lot of talk. Oh, is he going to stick with us? Is he going to stick with us? But he never wavered for a second. He came to multiple games, even came to a couple away games. Footed the bill himself. I believe Neil said that he showed up at the TCU game. Him and his grandma were there, and so just a huge supporter of the Mountaineers through and through. The highlight of the class for a lot of people, the highest ranked player in the class, depending on which service that you look at. And we're talking a U.S. Army All-American quarterback, the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Arizona. And we're talking about Nico Marchiol, the 6'3", 218-pound quarterback out of Chandler, Arizona, via Hamilton High School. This is a guy that has a lot of high hopes. Top 20 all-time recruit that West Virginia has ever signed. One of the top 20 highest rated that West Virginia has ever signed, and I believe maybe the third highest quarterback West Virginia's ever signed. I looked at it yesterday, but he's definitely up there, and he's a guy that people are excited about, and rightfully so. Learned today, something I didn't know. He's a 3-time state champion as a wrestler, also. So this is a guy that's tough, athletic, and you heard Neil Brown talk about him today for the first time. Now that the coaches can talk about him since he's signed, of course, NCAA rules, you can't talk about recruits by name till they're signed, what have you. But you finally hear Neil Brown say that he thinks he has the it factor. People flocked to him. Even when he visited, the team really took to him. And, you can tell he's got something that everybody wants to be a part of. Everyone dapped him up, as soon as they saw him, was drawn to him. And he's a natural leader, is what he said. And, to hear Neil say that he has that it factor, I think is big. He can make every throw, can throw on the run, can, change up the arm position, different releases if necessary. Even you've seen him do that. You've seen him in prime time this year on an ESPN televised game, bring his team back, lead a comeback, ice in his veins, and just a guy that's potential is absolutely through the roof. What else is there to say about Nico, Brad?
Yeah, guy's absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it, and I don't think I'm just blowing smoke up the kid's butt. You watch him play, and he is an absolute game changer. And it's insane to watch him play because he just plays with a love for football. He plays with the passion for football. He plays with some grit and some toughness. And I mean, I don't know how you get more West Virginian than that kid right there. And if I think Neil Brown's super excited about him. I think he's kind of been holding that close to the vest because I mean we can't talk about him anyway. But I think that Neil Brown is excited for this guy, and I don't. I want to see him. I don't. It's not me making a prediction if I think he will or not. I want to see him start. Like I want it
Yeah.
so bad because if even if he comes out and he's not great, like I just know. It, it's kind of like the same feeling I had about Neil Brown. It wasn't necessarily like I love the person, and I think that they're also a great football player.
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
loved Neil Brown, and I thought he was a great coach. And it's like I big fan of Nico, and I he's going to be successful, amazingly successful somewhere, and I want that place to be West Virginia University. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a guy that you're talking about as the future of the program. Like I said, the assistant's calling him a program changing type of quarterback. So, that's big, someone that you can build your program around. And, we talk about the arm talent. He can make every throw, but it's a guy that's a dual threat as well, can hurt you with his legs. So that's big. Neil Brown wants a dual threat at quarterback, hasn't gotten to have one really yet, as his starting quarterback. But I think that's going to change moving forward, looking at the players that he's recruiting and getting in here. And Nico, I think that everyone wants him to start, myself included. That would be huge. We'd love to see him a 4-year starter at quarterback. And, I don't know if it will happen, but, you heard Neil Brown be asked about it. He didn't shoot the idea down. He said, let's wait to see him at spring practice, see how it goes. He said quarterback's a hard position to play as a freshman. And it truly is. Looking at West Virginia themselves, if he was to start, that would just show you how talented he is, because West Virginia hasn't had a true freshman start at quarterback since it was either 74 or 75. So since 1974 or 1975. So almost 50 years since a true freshman started at quarterback for West Virginia. So if Nico does, then that just goes to show you the type of player that you have in Nico Marchiol.
yeah,
Moving
he's
on along
absolutely
now. Yeah, yeah, he's
sorry.
a stud. I mean, what else can you say? It's well documented that this guy is the future of WV football potentially, and everyone's excited, and rightfully so. So just can't wait to see him on campus, and he'll be here in just a few short weeks. So that's exciting. Moving along, Hershey McLaren, safety, another JUCO guy, 6'2", 203, hometown of Friendship, Mississippi, coming via Jones County Junior College. And this is a guy that I think led JUCO in interceptions, if I remember reading that stat correctly. But former high school quarterback, so he's athletic, and he knows what the quarterback's looking for. Moved to safety at the JUCO and is really a star. Got great size there at 6'2", 203, athletic, and West Virginia really needs someone at safety. You've got some of these young guys that redshirted this year. You saw St. McLeod playing towards the end of the season. Those guys that got potential, but you really need to fill some holes at safety. West Virginia losing 3 seniors at those positions with Scotty Young, Alonzo Adai, and Sean Mahone moving on. So you're definitely going to have new starters at safety. And this is a guy that could factor in to that competition, don't you think, Brad?
Yeah, I think for sure. And this is one of the ones where I was talking about a couple weeks ago, where Neil Brown needs to really go out and hit that defensive back end really hard. Between linebackers and DBs, it just at some place we're going to have to fill in, because we just could not survive with the injuries that we had going on last year. And I think that this is a good product of that. Just going out there and making sure you find some hole fillers for this year, because I think Neil Brown's building up to try to have a big year this year. So yeah, I think this is one of those kind of moves.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a guy that you go get with the hopes that he can contribute right away, and hopefully he comes in. And I don't know if he's enrolling early, but that would be big help if he is, and can get a step ahead on things, and hopefully contribute there at safety. Moving on down to the next player, Corbin Page, tight end, 6'5", 243 pounds, so great size already. Spring Valley High School produces another Mountaineer. They continue to do it, hometown of Huntington, West Virginia. Neil Brown said when he got here, they wanted to lock down this state, not let the top talent get away. And he's proven to do just that. Corbin Page, the top recruit in the state of West Virginia this season, signs him. So that would be every year since Neil's been here. He has signed the top recruit in the state of West Virginia, continuing that streak with Corbin Page. I think it's a guy that you now have a hole to fill with TJ Banks leaving. I think he has prototypical size. A guy like Charles Finley's been here a couple years. I think he came in at 215. And so Corbin coming in at 6'5", 243 is big. He can block. He can do all the things they need him to do. And, outside of Mike O, I think he's coming in as your best pass catching, best already, pass catching option as a tight end. They split him out at receiver even at Spring Valley this year, and he was just, open by birth, as Neil Brown likes to say, with that height at 6'5". Great size, got a lot of high hopes for Corbin Page, and I think you'll see him on the field next season. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, definitely going to see him next season. It's I think it showed on the field that when we had a really competent linebacker, tight end in there, that our game improved. Mike O coming back was massive, and losing him and TJ Banks came on strong in the end. When he was playing
Mm-hmm.
well, our defense were really, our team offense just really got a boost from that. So I think Corbin Page is going to have a chance to come in. Love to see a West Virginia boy. We almost lost him. People thought he might be going to Virginia Tech, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
A lot
big
of
to get
worried
him.
about him flipping, so I was
Yeah,
excited to see him sign.
yeah, yeah. It's big to get him in. Not that it's guaranteed, but it's big to have him in. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's West Virginia boy, like you said. That I think that's what makes me most excited about it. I love to see the
Oh
West
yeah,
Virginia kids get playing time, and yeah, I think he'll have all Mountaineer Nation behind him, especially.
yeah. And I think West Virginia now has 6 or 7 guys on the roster from Spring Valley High School, so they continue to produce Mountaineers. And Neil Brown in his press conference today pointed out that whether it's this season or next season or what have you, that potentially you could have 3 Spring Valley guys all beside each other on that line when you got Doug Nestor at right guard, Wyatt Milam at right tackle, and Corbin Page at tight end. 3 guys all from the same high school right there side by side. So that would probably be a first, I'm sure, but pretty cool there.
Yeah, it would be real exciting.
Moving on, one of the guys that West Virginia got a commit from, late, I believe, just a few days ago, and then he comes in and signs. And this is a guy that really flew under the radar. Neil Brown talked about he was 185 pounds, and that's the reason why he flew under the radar as a defensive lineman. But he really put on weight. A year ago, being 185 pounds, all the way up to 260 pounds now. Before he graduates, and this guy's a Sawney Redwood defensive lineman, 6'3", 260 from Sewanee, Georgia, Collins Hill High School. And this guy was an absolute stud of a pass rusher. I think Neil Brown said he's only been playing football for a couple years. I think he's from Jamaica, I want to say, originally is where Neil Brown said he's from. Grew up playing soccer, started playing football, came in 185, 190 pounds. They bulked him up to 260. And this guy had 52 quarterback hurries, 43 and a half tackles for loss, and broke the school record and I think maybe the Georgia State record for sacks. I think he had 19 and a half, almost 20 sacks in a season. And we're not talking, he's not doing it against bad competition. It's at the highest level of football in Georgia, one of the most talent-rich states. And some of the coaches compared him to someone else that flew under the radar that they got a couple years ago in Akeem Mesidor, and we've seen how that worked out. So Asani Redwood may be the steal of the class, in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember because he kind of came on late. I didn't really hear much about him until
Mm-hmm.
pretty much the last week, and yeah, absolutely. I expanding stats there. I mean, it blows my mind to sit here and think about because I saw. I think it was Jed Renning. Somebody else had posted about it today, and I'm like, that's an insane amount of tackles for loss. It almost sounds
No,
unreal.
ridiculous. Yeah.
And if I can translate to, you know, even a fraction of that success in college play, he'll 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 be a first 2 rounder. Like that's
Oh yeah.
you know
That's a NFL
that's
type
yeah
guy, if
for
he's
sure.
doing
That's
that,
insane numbers.
Yeah, when you're drawing comparisons to Akeem Mesidor, that's big. So
Yeah.
he's a guy that I
Imagine
think
having
could
two
see
of
in the
those guys.
rotation. Yeah,
Imagine having
exactly.
two of those
One on
guys
each
in there.
side. Whew. Oh, buddy, this defensive line is going to be
Good luck.
something, and hopefully this defense is going to be a force. Pass rush may be something to be reckoned with moving forward. But speaking of defense, sticking on that side of the ball with the highest rated player in this class, judging by 247 Sports Composite, ESPN 150 guy, a guy that West Virginia went and stole from the Miami Hurricanes from the U. A lot of people thought that he'd end up there because he's from Miami, Florida. But we're talking Jacoby Spells, the corner, 6 foot, 170 pounder via American Heritage High School in Miami, Florida. This guy's an absolute stud. Athletic, played receiver and corner. Could play corner for West Virginia, could play safety, but he's a guy that I don't think will redshirt that I think could get on the field. He's that talented. What are your thoughts on Jacoby Spells, Bradley?
Yeah, this is definitely the one of the class. I mean, definitely he's from American Heritage Plantation down there. I mean, that's a football high school. Like that. That's one of those elite top 25 type programs out there. That's all they do is play football. And Jacoby Spells is an absolute steal. I mean, we pulled him out from underneath Miami, and I remember watching his commitment on CBS. I think it was CBS Sports,
CBS Sports, yeah.
and he pulled that blue and gold hat, and I literally ran through my house dancing. It was that kind of excitement because
Exactly, same.
he's a person. He's a guy that you're going to see come on the field and play immediately. I mean, I think that he's going to be out there fighting because that's where we've been struggling at anyway. And I think this is another one of the guys that you're going to recognize when they're on that field. I think him and Mumu, or when you see them out there, is going to be uh, a real fun game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, and I think both could contribute sooner rather than later. And then sticking with the defensive backfield with our next signee, a guy that's listed as a safety, really athletic guy. Another under the radar guy. He's a 3-star guy, but has a lot of potential, really high ceiling. And we're talking Christian Stokes, 6'1", 180 guy. Another guy that's still out of Big Ten country there in Harper Woods, Michigan, being his hometown via Harper Woods High School. A lot of good things I've heard about Stokes. See him all over Twitter. He's one of those guys like Moo and Nico, and the list goes on. That really promoting West Virginia and recruiting other guys there. So we love to see that. And he's really bought into this program, and he's an extremely athletic guy. I think a lot of speed with Christian Stokes. A lot of people was wondering if he'd play offense or defense. He's sticking with defense and coming to the Mountaineers. What are your thoughts on Stokes?
Yeah, Stokes is what I'm excited about, and I think he's kind of underrated. I think I think they got to list him at like an 85 on 247. But I really think I think he plays at a higher level than that, and I think that we've been hitting that area of Michigan. We've been hitting Michigan, Pennsylvania, and then you said Georgia and Florida. I think they're the 4 states that we've really been trying to crush. I feel like about every other day I see kids from
Yep.
those 4 states, getting offers. And I think Christian Stokes is going to be. We need depth back there so bad, and you're filling in that depth with a really high quality player that's got a lot of upside. I mean, Christian Stokes has had a heck of a year this year in high school, and I think that if he grows into himself and he can really develop through this program, he's going to be a guy that you're going to see starting in probably 2 or 3 years if he stays.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Now the next guy we mentioned him briefly earlier. Gosh, I'm just tripping over all the words today, but uh, we're talking Oliver Ollie Straw, the 6'2", 220-pound punter out of Australia. Pro Kick Australia. Josh Groudon's involved there. He's the guy that turned him on to Ollie Straw, and via Josh Groudon's own words, he has a stronger leg than Josh Groudon, who was a fan favorite, in Neil Brown's first season. And these Australian punters, we've seen how successful they've been. And we've got another one here in Ollie Straw, potential to start right away next season, I think. He's a guy that they said can kick with either foot. So they can roll him out left, they can roll him out right. They said he can do spiral punts, end over end punts, rugby style, what have you. So it's really going to throw the return teams off if you're not going to know what foot he's going to kick it with, what side he's going to roll out to. And Neil Brown himself said he's a guy that could be a potential game-changing type of weapon on special teams because with the way that he kicks with either foot and can roll either way, he said teams may have to deploy 2 return men back on punt, which means less coverage and things like that. So and his hang time I saw videos is absolutely ridiculous. So really field position is such an important stat that gets overlooked. And he's a guy that could really contribute to West Virginia having a big advantage in field position over the next 4 years. And I'm really excited about Ollie Straw coming in from Australia. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, it's a bit of a place we've struggled in. We've had good punters, but they've not been super consistent. And with Neil Brown's offense, he's super control heavy. So, wants to control time of possession, wants to move the ball at his own pace, and being able to control a little bit better and have a really solid punter back there is exciting. Plus, Mountaineer fans know we've always loved our punters and our kickers. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is going to be a guy that I think is going to be a fan favorite with the way he's going to perform. And I think we're talking about a 4-year starter. In my opinion, I think he comes in, wins the job right away, and he'll be a weapon. He'll be a weapon for sure. Moving on along here, 3 guys left. We've talked 19 of them. We got 3 more to get to the 22 that have signed thus far. And flipping back over to the offense, another offensive lineman, the tallest of the offensive linemen that West Virginia has signed thus far. And we're talking Sullivan Sully Weedman, 6'6", 300-pounder from Franklin, Massachusetts, via Dexter Southfield School. And another guy with great size coming in. You've seen West Virginia want this length and want this size. And, they're adding it again with another offensive lineman that's over 6'5", 6'6", and already 300 pounds. And, as we said, he'll have time to develop, beyond that as well, get the technique up and everything as West Virginia continues to build this offensive line up. And I like where it's heading. What are your thoughts on Sully?
yeah, he's another one of those guys right in there with, like Maurice Hamilton and Katerinik and Landon Livingston. I think that these are your backups that you're looking at this year. And these are guys that are going to develop and play once our really talented linemen up and leave either to the NFL or whatever happens to them next. So yeah, I think it's just another one of those depth guys. You're not going to see
Yeah.
them a lot this year probably, but you're definitely going to see them in the years to come.
Yeah, you got to build your program from the trenches out, and West Virginia is definitely doing that with what we've seen, what they're adding, offensive line and defensive line wise, and that's another guy that's going to continue to build that depth out and be a piece, in the future, down the road. Speaking of a guy that's big time recruit, another 4-star player, and we're talking about another receiver in Jarrell Williams, 6'2", 185-pounder, Sutherland, Alabama, Sutherland High School. He's a guy that has potential to contribute on special teams right away. He was a good return man in high school, so as we said before, West Virginia is going to be trying out punt returners. So he's a guy that could definitely audition there, and who knows, that may be his way onto the field earlier than expected. Is on special teams. West Virginia is getting a little bit older there at the receiver. I think they'll have 3 or 4 seniors at receiver next year. So, even if you don't see him too much next season, potential to redshirt, he's a 4-star guy that definitely will contribute down the road with a lot of potential here in the next couple of seasons. West Virginia will look for some younger receivers here. Maybe not next season so much, but definitely in 2023. And this guy's a big time get for West Virginia.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about our wide receiver rooms getting older. And so, yeah, you're probably going to see him redshirt this year. You'll get to see him in his 4 games. And it's somebody to be really excited about going forward. And it's that nice 6'2" build that can go up there and probably high point a ball, take the top off probably of a defense. And it's somebody definitely to look forward to, especially if you can develop real well and we can get him into a good uh, strength and conditioning program.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Joseph, get a hold of him, put a little weight on him, put a little more muscle on him, and he'll be a force to be reckoned with in the future, no doubt, I believe. And rounding out our signees thus far, a guy that's been committed for a long time. I believe he was one of the very first commits, if not the very first commit of this 2022 class way back when, in the fall. And we're talking Tyron Woodby, 6'1", 170-pound corner from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, via St. Francis Academy. Another guy, as we said, length is the theme with this class, and that's a good size at corner there at 6'1". Future contributor there in Tyron Woodby, don't you think, Brad?
Yeah, you'll probably see him play a little bit this year. I don't know if they'll redshirt him or not out there. Um, but definitely going to be a developmental guy. Going to perfect length that you're looking for back there. I think that some of the other guys a little bit more talented in this class are probably going to get a shot at it first. So definitely going to be one of the guys that, goes more towards the development side of the program than immediate impact side of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Developmental program, as Neil said, and he's one of those guys going to be thrust into that developmental stage of the program, but good potential for the future and good length and athleticism as West Virginia continue to try and get longer and more athletic with this class. And I think they've done a great job of doing so. So if you're just joining us here, we're live on YouTube and live on our Facebook. If you're hearing this in the audio, we'll flip this into a podcast for you guys to check out as well on our podcast, which you can find on all the platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, what have you. But this has been the class. That's what West Virginia has so far: 22 signees. Neil has said West Virginia will take 32. So 10 more spots still left. I'm sure they'll save some of those even for after spring, because you'll get some transfers in. So you'll probably see, 5 to 6 more signed before spring, during spring, and then, hold, 4 or 5 for after spring, and then get up to that 32 by the time fall camp begins, which is big for West Virginia because if they sign that full 32, they're going to be up around 80 scholarship players, which is something Neil has been trying to get to since he got here, and finally in his 4th year getting up there to the full allotment of scholarship players as he was left a bare cupboard, down there right at 50 or 51 players, I think, when he took over. Just terrible scholarship number of players, and he's finally built that up. With the ability to sign this 32 this year, he should have that up around 80. That being said, 10 spots left. Some potential guys that West Virginia could add, Bradley. Anyone you want to name off the top of your head that that West Virginia may be looking at to add that you think could fill one of those potential 10 remaining spots?
I mean, I don't have any particular players off the top of my head that I think we might go after, but I think that we might try to go for. I think we might go for a little bit more on the defensive side. I think in the offensive side, we're pretty picked on the lineman that we wanted. We might go for another wide receiver out there because I know that we lost KJ Thomas, so they might turn around and try to find another wide receiver to fill in out there. Um, but yeah, no, none of them off the top of my head that I can think of. But then again, I've been bombarded by just football offers, scholarships, and people accepting and people decommitting left and right. So I couldn't keep up with all of them.
Yeah, I get that for sure. It's a lot to take in. I know I've got a couple really just two that I can think of off the top of my head. I know like you said, position wise, I think West Virginia probably maybe add another lineman or two. One on each side of the ball. Probably I could see linebacker being a target. I think the main one you're definitely going to see is safety. You're going to see either whether it be JUCO or traditional transfer. West Virginia's going to add at least one more safety to try and come in and help them right away. The guy I have my eye on at that spot is Joseph Charleston, Clemson transfer, visited with Lynn J. Dixon at the Texas game. I think that's a guy that I believe he started 6 games for Clemson this year at safety, 68 tackles over his time there. He would have 2 years left as well, I believe. But that's the guy that I've got my eye on, hopefully hoping to add at safety. But who knows? They may have some more in and out of the portal or whatever. And then the other interesting name that I've seen lately pop up, saw an article about it that West Virginia has some interest in is a quarterback, actually. This guy is the number 2 ranked. Let me make sure that's right here. Let me pull this transfer portal. Yeah, the number 2 quarterback in the transfer portal, number 9 ranked player overall in the transfer portal. And he's coming from the FCS and the school called Incarnate Word. I'm sure some people have heard of that before, but the guy threw for the third most yards in the nation, 4,300, 40 some touchdowns, and a lot of programs have their eye on him. His name's Cameron Ward. I believe he just visited Ole Miss recently, but a ton of guys in on him. Houston, uh, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia, apparently one of those teams that has some interest in him as well. So maybe keep your eye out there. I don't know if West Virginia will end up adding him or not, but if Daggy doesn't come back, which at this point, as I said, I personally am kind of leaning towards that he's not, but that's just my thinking. We'll have to see how that plays out. But if Daggy doesn't come back, I would not be surprised to see West Virginia add a transfer portal quarterback of some sort so that they're just not so young at that position. Because if not, you're talking a sophomore, a redshirt freshman, and a true freshman. So I think that that's somewhere else West Virginia may look to fill one of those 10 spots. So just a couple of names to keep an eye on there.
Hmm. Yeah, spicy,
In the
spicy.
comments, yeah, spicy stuff there. So we'll see, if you never know. But yeah, Cameron Ward's a name to watch. He's going to be somewhere in Division One next season. I don't know if it'll be the Mountaineers necessarily or not, but it's going to be somewhere. And West Virginia apparently has interest, so we'll see. Joseph Charleston definitely though he has visited, and so that's a name to keep an eye on that I think could wind up in Morgantown. And fingers crossed that he does. But in the comments here we got Ryan Mathena. Why does the NCAA even have a signing day anymore? With the new transfer portal, signing day doesn't even mean anything anymore. Just my opinion. Let's go Mountaineers. Yeah, I know. I've seen a lot of talk about that, and I even heard Shane Lyons today. They were asking if they may move signing day again. I don't know if that means moving it up, moving it back, what have you. But I don't know. I think that I'm more of the in the camp of instead of having a signing day, why not just let these players kind of sign when they want to, instead of having these signing periods and you get these guys committing, decommitting and stuff. Why not just have a guy when he's committed, go ahead and let him sign whenever he wants to? I think that would be more effective really than, having an actual signing day. But personally, in my opinion, I just like it. I get excited about it when it comes around because you get to see who you're going to get. We get to sit here and talk about it, and then you get to look at how many spots you got left that you can add and everything. But I do, transfer portal is a touchy subject for sure. A lot of people think it's ruining it. A lot of people think it's good, and I think in West Virginia's case, it's good and bad. We've seen a lot of people leave, but also in West Virginia's case, it's good because a lot of these 5-star guys are going to these programs that are loaded and they're going to end up leaving, and we've seen some of those guys fall into West Virginia's lap, and you get some guys that traditionally you wouldn't be able to sign out of high school. West Virginia's not signing Lynn J. Dixon out of high school, a guy that high rated, but they can get him through the transfer portal and you can go on and on, with, names like that, Will Greer, West Virginia wasn't getting him out of high school, but they ended up getting him as a transfer as well. So I think there's good and bad to it as there is anything. But what are your thoughts on, signing day and the transfer portal a little bit, Brad?
Yeah, signing day. I don't have like an extreme feeling to it. I think it's like a kind of like a nice day for guys to look to, like Christmas. It gives them a set date to be like, oh, I've got to decide by this date, or I'd like to be able to decide by this date. Gives them a little bit of structure that they don't necessarily have to worry about. Because then if you got guys like signing as soon as they feel like they're committed, yeah, I'll go ahead and sign. And they change their mind 2 weeks later or like 2 months later, then it's a little bit tougher spot for the kids. So I don't really feel any type of way about the signing day. I'm cool with having it. Makes me excited. It gives me something to look forward to.
Yeah,
But if they got rid
exactly.
of it, it's not gonna break my heart.
Yeah,
Transfer portal wise, yeah, exactly what you said. I think it, like I said earlier in the show, if we're gonna be losing as much as we've been losing, we got to start getting just as much, in return. At least trying to break even on it and stuff like that
right.
with Lynn J Dixon and stuff like that. I think we're doing good at that, and so it's it sucks that we're losing kids, but it's also great that we're getting the portal giveth and the portal taketh.
Absolutely. Okay,
It's just how it
that's
is
that's
anymore.
all you can say. That's all you can say at this point because it's here to stay. It's not going away. The players would ride at this point if they had to sit out a year again. So, but Rod or Deem, Mortimer would have been nice, but a solid day overall for sure. Yeah, I was hoping to flip Mortimer as well, but signing Jeremiah Aaron, kind of surprised me and kind of filled that void for me. So, I was upset about it, but then when we got Jeremiah Aaron, the JUCO receiver. I really like that. Now I think, and my bold prediction is Jeremiah Aaron will be the team's punt returner next season. Just right now, that's just kind of what I think. I think he's got that potential. So I like signing Aaron. Would love to have Mortimer too, but hey, 1 out of 2 is not bad, so I'll take it. Um, Ryan Mathena, also very true. Love the show, brother. Keep them coming. Hey, we definitely will. We appreciate that for sure. Thanks a lot, Ryan. We'll definitely keep them coming. We'll have the bowl game preview coming up here in about a week or so. Probably try and drop that a few days before the game. Whenever we can all three get together. Steven's working today, but we're all three going to get together for the bowl game preview. So we'll have that coming, and then of course we'll have the bowl game reaction, and we'll do a season wrap up show, and then have some things coming throughout the off season as well as news breaks and such. But it's been the signing day recap. 22 players in the class so far for West Virginia in the year 2022. And talking ranking wise, it's really impressive. I know they've dropped, from the top 25. I think they're about 30 or so now, which is still good for West Virginia, potentially. And the biggest thing that stands out to me as far as the ranking is third best class in the Big 12, which is potentially, as good as it gets. You're probably not going to beat Texas or Oklahoma, who's 1 and 2. I don't know who's 1 and who's 2, but being third in the Big 12 is really good, and a place West Virginia hasn't been recruiting that high in the Big 12. So third ranked class in the Big 12 right now is huge for West Virginia, and this is a really impressive class already. And West Virginia is still going to add 10 more spots, and I think in those 10 spots you'll see guys that are going to contribute right away and help next season for sure. That being said, Bradley, any final thoughts? Anything you want to touch on here before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. Somebody go save my dude Steven from Chili's up there.
Yeah, they got the man up there slaving. He
Yeah,
can't get away.
he worked like 14 days straight, I think, at least. Yeah,
Jeez, but
somebody needs to go save him. I think
yeah,
needs
absolutely.
to.
We miss him. We miss him for sure. Yeah, that's I guess that's it. I don't really have nothing else to add. Excited about the class. Excited about 2022. I know we still got the bowl game, so one more time to see the Mountaineers, and we'll talk about that as it gets closer. But yeah, that's pretty much it here for the signing day recap. As always, follow us on Twitter at WVU Country Roads. Like us on Facebook, Country Roads Webcast. Subscribe to us on all the podcast platforms. We're all over Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, what have you. And then, of course, video versions up on YouTube and our Facebook page. Bowl game preview coming soon. And then we'll have another live stream for the bowl game reaction. That being said, as always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz, and for my co host, Bradley. Until next time, let's go, Mountaineers.